I get to live. And in this chapter, I share about when my sister was diagnosed with cancer, and we both had 3 kids. We both were married. We were living in 2 different places at the time. But as I walked through that with her and watched it, there were some things that God brought to my attention and just to my own life. And so I wanted to share just some of those thoughts. I do believe my sister is in heaven and thankful for that. But one of the first things that came up for me as I was watching her get the diagnosis, she was nursing like a baby that was just turning 1, and she was diagnosed with breast cancer. Well, they were saying it couldn't happen in people young like that, and if you're breastfeeding, all the better. And and then she showed up with it. But I watched almost like the system take a hold, and I know she just was doing what she knew and what she thought was best. So I wasn't involved in all the decisions. And so I know she went the route she was led to go. But as I watched some of that, I was like, just how quickly the system can take over kind of what we're used to, maybe the traditions of man. Like what, you go to the hospital, you hear the doctor's result and report, and then you go along with all that they say to do. And that's not always wrong, but there's also that thought of, what if we pause and ask God? It's like that verse in Proverbs. We've gone over this one in other chapters, but it's such an important one, from Proverbs 3, 5 and 6. Trust in and rely confidently on the Lord with all your heart, and do not rely on your own insight or understanding. In all your ways, know and acknowledge and recognize him, and he will make your path straight and smooth, removing obstacles that block your way. And so what if even in the area of, the doctor's reports and just anything that we're pausing, we're not just like panicking and like, oh no, I've got this report, we've got to do this. And sometimes it does have to be really quick, but, or at least they say it does. Maybe it doesn't have to be that quick, So just being willing to seek God in those places. There's all kinds of natural medicine, supplements, just there's so many options out there, especially today. Years ago, it seems like the medical route was almost like the only one. But today we know so many different things. Just be willing to let God lead us through what we've been diagnosed with. And in a couple chapters down, I'll share some things. I was diagnosed with being on the verge of a grand mal seizure at one point, and I had a blood clot in my leg. And neither of those, I didn't go back to the doctor for. I worked through it with God and just was willing to go if I needed to. I didn't want to be ignorant or foolish, but I didn't feel God wanted me to go that route. And so I worked through it the way he told me. And so anyway, just those thoughts of acknowledging God in all the things, not just stepping into a place of fear. Oh no, it has to be done now in this way, but slowing down. So that was the first thing that, God brought to me as I was walking through that with my sister. Also, so our family had moved to Idaho. We were in Montana. And when she was in the middle of her illness, Justin was able to get a job back in Idaho. And we went. We put our house on the market. For a while where we were paying to like mortgage and rent. And after 6 months, the house hadn't sold. So we did move back because she was through some of the chemo and different things she was needing to go through. But while we were there, then we spent Christmas there. Well, our children had a cold and my sister's immune system was down. So we couldn't be involved in the family gathering. And it would have been easy to be discouraged about that. But then it would have been a downer of a day, right? For all of us. And so I took that opportunity to bless the family we went and Christmas caroling. We just had 3 little kids and we took them caroling to all the families' houses or, friends and family that were in the area. And we just celebrated on our own. And that was one of our first celebrations, if I remember right, just us. Like you almost have to step into that sometimes when you've been used to doing it with family so much. But being discouraged about things not going the way we thought they should is it's like a habit usually. It's like, oh no, these plans didn't work out. But what if God actually worked it out that way? What if he wanted it? Not to our discouragement, but what if it's a test of our faith again? What if we get to do it this way instead? Even if it doesn't look as fun, but there's always a reason. God always has a reason for the places he puts us, the things happening in our lives. He works them all for good and he doesn't waste any. And so what if we get to choose to grow through all of the different circumstances and choose the higher road? Like we can choose the road of discouragement, oh no, for us, we don't get to, or we can choose, no, this is an opportunity to do it a different way, or see these other people instead, or just whatever comes. What if we choose that higher road and we continually choose to go that higher road? That will produce what I think all of us desire, is that mature and complete fact. From James 1:2-4, when we consider it joy whenever we face trials of any kind, knowing that the testing of our faith will produce patience. It takes patience to walk through those things when you don't get to be with the family you were planning on, or when this other thing doesn't go like you were expecting. It takes patience. Okay, God, I'm going to trust you here. And when we grow in that patience, then it tells us we will be mature and complete, lacking nothing. So he's very gracious to us, to give us these trials for our growth, if we'll listen and choose them. I was sharing even with one of my kids the other day, I can't remember what happened, but they were down about something happening. And they said, you know those little toys, can you picture the little toys? I picture a Bugs Bunny one, where they're like wire inside and they bend and you can like twist them all different ways and they don't break. That's the idea. So we can either be like something like that when things aren't going our way. We can just bend, okay, okay, pivot and okay, it's okay, we'll go this way instead. Or we can be like a stick. It just breaks. Like there's no more of it, like it just didn't go my way, broke. And I think that's why we can see in our society, maybe in our own lives, many people have just broken at all the different reports, situations, trials. It's just broken. And I remember being at that stage one time. I remember saying to someone, I don't know if I can go through one more hard thing. Like it just felt like they can pile up sometimes. But what if we just like don't let them pile up, just flow with what's happening and just keep our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith. All of that will help us grow into the person and the purpose that he has for us. If we will trust and keep our eyes on him as we walk through this life, there will be trials. Again, tonight when you get home. I was just sharing with Pastor that I had brought my books to a store just a little ways away. I don't want to say the name of it now because it's kind of fresh. But I took them there probably 3 weeks ago. The shop burned today. Yeah. And you can be like, okay, what's going on, But it's just like, I messaged the gal because someone had sent me the picture. It was on Facebook. And I just said, did this happen? So sorry, She said, yeah, it's fine. And so what will we do with that next report? With that next thing? We cannot change it. It's already done. But we can, what we do get, the choice of it is how we walk through it. And if we're going to believe God, or if we're going to let the enemy discourage us and just like pull us down. So the trials will continue in this world. You will have trials and trouble, tribulation, whatever you want to call it. But take heart, I have overcome. Will we believe that he has already won the victory for us? And we know in the end, we're victorious. No matter what's happening, we have the victory. And we speak. For it's in him we live and move and exist. That's Acts 17:28. It's in him that we have our being. Let's be people that are flexible, that just move with God. We don't want to be ones that get hung up on all the things happening, because we will then get stuck in the things. But if we will just flow through, okay, I'm trusting you, God. You're going to show me what to do. You're going to show me how this is going to look. And I'm going to keep giving you, even though it looks impossible. Well, we serve the God of the impossible. So we can have faith and trust that he is going to work it out, no matter what's happening. Even with my sister, to die is gain for a believer. I have to believe she's gain. That's what the word says. Now, do I like it that she left the earth early? No, but I can't change that. I have the word to look to and to trust. And so I'm going to believe what it says about, my sister. To live as Christ, to die as gain. So she just gained. And we got to see all just how God worked it out for her kids. And we have to know too that the trials that even her kids went through are for the purpose he has for them in front of them as well. And it doesn't look, we know it doesn't always look good, or like, how could this be good? Well, God knows what they were born. And so if we can be people that look beyond this natural world and go, that one's probably going to be able to help many people that will go through losing parents, or living without that closer family, or whatever. So praise God for his faithfulness. And as I realized, watching my sister pass from this life, I was like, I get to live, and how am I living? Like, this is a privilege to be here and to be chosen to raise these children and be a wife to my husband. How am I living? It could be gone tomorrow. Do I want to make a difference, or do I want to wallow through life, constantly struggling, discouraged about all the things, or do I want to really live and live for the Lord, which is the only purpose? It tells us in the word that without him, from John 15:5, for apart from me, you have nothing. So he's our whole purpose, our whole reason for living. And so what if we decide I'm living for myself isn't working? When I was living for myself, it was, oh no, for me, it didn't work out. I had to stay home again because one of the kids was sick, or I couldn't go there because we didn't have the money, but when we lay our lives down and decide it's for him that I'm living, then we're set free, because we're not trying to make it all happen ourselves. We're just like, okay, what's next, God? Where do you want me now? So with my books being gone now, I'm like, okay, God, they were yours. I didn't have insurance. I didn't know to. I didn't realize. And it may go under her insurance, whatever she had with the building's insurance. And so I'm like, okay, well, I could be like, oh no, the money's gone, whatever. But I'm like, it's not mine. He was the one that told me to write the book to begin with. So I don't even feel like it's my book, it's his to do with whatever he wants. And if he decided that these books needed to be burned, not in like but just, it's okay. I'm unattached. Unattached to the things, So thankful for the Lord. In James 4:14, it says, you do not know what may happen. What is secure in your life? You are merely a vapor that is visible for a little while and then vanishes. I'm going to go over there because I wrote down. So James 4, I wrote down to read a couple more of those verses. Those. Okay, James 4:13-15. Come now and pay attention to this. You who say today or tomorrow we will go to such and such a city and spend a year there and carry on our business and make a profit. Yet you do not know the least thing about what may happen in your life tomorrow. What is secure in your life? You are merely a vapor, like a puff of smoke or a wisp of steam from a cooking pot that is visible for a little while and then vanishes into thin air. Instead, you ought to say, if the Lord wills, we will live and we will do this or that. So what is our life without God? Did we take anything into the world? Can we take anything? So why live attached to the things, or things that we we need this money or this car or this home or whatever. We can enjoy them, enjoy what he's given, thankful, with the realization it could be gone tomorrow. We might be asked to give it all away tomorrow, or it could burn in a fire or whatever. Not that we live in a way of discouragement, but just reality of, I'm living for the Lord. I'm his vessel. He's enough. And he will supply every need according to his riches and glory, whatever as needed. Another verse that came up as I actually spoke at my sister's funeral and just, shared some things about her life. And this verse, 2 Chronicles 20:15, be not afraid or dismayed at this great multitude, for the battle is not yours, but God's. And I believe that came from when Jehoshaphat was king and there was some war going on or something. And this is what he was told. Don't worry, don't be afraid. The battle isn't yours, but God's. So as we go through different battles in our lives, can we look at them as God's battles? Like he's fighting for us. He's on our side. He's seeing us through. John 16:33. In me you may have peace. In the world you have tribulation and distress and suffering. But be courageous. I have overcome the world. Will we live in peace, knowing that God's God, that he's going before us, that he's guiding the way? And the thoughts about we get to live. What is my purpose in life? Is it just me walking through life, all the struggles as a parent, a wife, a friend, a child, an employer, an employee, business owner, not? Is that the purpose? That might be something God has us being in this life, but above that, it's all for his glory. It's all for his glory. And the way he gets glory, the biggest way is the way we walk through representing him in this world. as we walk through our businesses with our rentals and things, it's the way we're being toward the tenants, toward the other business owners that we work with. It's the way we're being in our home, the way we're being as we have all the kids that we're watching, as we're ministering to the flock that he's given. And, just whatever space, even the way we're being just the two of us, husband and wife in a room. Like that is either we're glorifying him or we're not. In the way we're speaking or just our attitude, It's a good question of how am I being in life? Like I remember the seasons where I was anxious and upset all day. Well, I don't think that was God's like best for me, and is that representing him if I'm walking that way? And so as we can learn to walk in the fruits of the Spirit, being kind, patient, loving through all the trials, that allows the people on the outside to go, look at the way Aaron walked through that. Like, how did you do that? And it's only because of God. We could only do that because he gave us the strength. And it's him living through us rather than our old fleshly way. We have the power of God on the inside of us to be able to walk. Just kind of like Jesus did on this earth. He just walked smoothly and he ministered to people. And he wasn't moved. Someone says, so-and-so died. And he's like, okay. And he kept going to another city that he was planning to go to. And they're like, where were you? It's just like in the Father's timing. So we have one chance to live. Romans 6:11 says, consider yourselves dead to sin, but alive to God. I'm going to go over to Romans 6. There's a lot in that. There's just so much about being a slave to righteousness instead of a slave to sin. Romans 6:16, I wrote down here. Do you not know that when you continually offer yourselves to someone to do his will, you are the slave of the one whom you obey, either slaves to sin, which leads to death, or of obedience, which leads to righteousness, right standing with God. But thank God that though you were slaves of sin, you became obedient with all your heart to the standard of teaching in which you were instructed and to which you were committed. And having been set free from sin, you became the slaves of righteousness, of conformity to God's will and purpose. I read down to 18. What if we're a slave to righteousness? What if we can't do the wrong thing? As much as we're like, oh, I keep doing this, this wrong thing. Like I keep yelling at my kids, or I keep responding in anger to this, or whatever it is in your own life. What if you're no longer a slave to doing life that way? You're a slave to doing it right. God's way. what if we can picture ourselves? It's like that simple, you know, either I'm a slave to God or I'm a slave to sin. And we make a choice of which one we're walking in. We live alive to God. So if we're alive to God, we're alive to all of the righteousness in Him, His power, all of the fruits of the Spirit, love. We're alive to love. We're alive to joy. We're alive to peace, patience. We're alive to kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. So as you think about that, where in your day were you maybe not showing that you were alive to peace? You know, and then when you walk through that same thing tomorrow, we will get, or even tonight, we'll get another chance. We'll be like, I'm no longer a slave to the responding this way. I'm going to respond as one alive to God and all that He has. And it's not it's not a striving thing, like, oh, I gotta do this. It's more like letting the life of God flow through you. Because it says in the word, for you have died, and your life is now hidden with Christ in God. That's Colossians 3:3. For you have died, and your life is now hidden with Christ in God. Can you picture yourself dead? Like it means obviously we're not dead, we're alive. But it means that your old ways are dead. It means that you're not living to your own will anymore. You're now hidden in Christ, hidden in His love. And anything that comes out of you is just godly, like God's living through you. Another verse, Philippians 1:21. For me to live is Christ, to die is gain. So what does it look like to say, for me to live is Christ? Well, it's living unto His word. It's living in obedience. It's living according to His agenda and not my own. And we can know if we've decided to follow Him, He is leading us in paths of righteousness for His name's sake. So then any of the things that come up, something you were planning to do and it doesn't work out, just anything, God must not have wanted me to do that. I was listening to or reading something from Rick Renner. He's a Greek scholar, and he was saying that at one point they had a family trip, and it was to be somewhere like across seas, near an ocean. And a few days before they were to leave, he was like, I go. And I was thinking about this the other day. I'm like, if we had paid for tickets and everyone was like planning, this is what we're doing, we're going, would I listen if I felt like I was saying no? So they ended up listening and they went somewhere else. It was like not to go there. Well, turns out there was a tsunami or something that happened in that area where God had showed him not to be. And he was so thankful that he had listened, you know? So will we live according to God's agenda and his direction? Even if it means it can almost look like foolishness to us. It can look like we're wasting money or we're discouraging other people. Will we listen to God over all of that? You know, it's kind of like Noah when he was called to build a boat. No rain had ever been seen. It took 120 years. That's a long time to not see a result and to be working. Would we do that? Would we trust God enough? You know, and if not, like if we're saying, I don't think I would right now, then it's a place we want to get our strength. Because it needs to be all about him and what he's doing. Because our plans won't. If we're doing it just I'm going this way, it won't succeed. Like it won't. We need to be in line with God, just like, okay, God. And the word tells us he'll give us the desires of our heart as we align with him and walk with him and choose obedience, our will in his life. The layer like down. And I liked what it said. Well, I have this in the end of this chapter. Letting go of all the control we think we have and yielding to God brings so much freedom and joy. We stop being about our own plan and agenda and like, I want it about you. It's not working the way I was thinking, like something keeps happening. So I'm like, God, I'm going with you. Thank you for this life and